A very warm welcome to the Alice Springs Desert Park and to Parrtjima, a Festival in Light 2023. My name is Anya Papucha and I'll be your host this evening. I would like to begin this evening by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land. Parrtjima respectfully acknowledges the past, present, and emerging custodians and ancestors of Mbantua, Alice Springs. We recognise the Amerikatui, traditional owners, and Kurulungu, caretakers of the land on which we gather tonight. They hold the traditional rights to speak for these regions, and we honour their guidance, advice, and blessings for Parrtjima. It is great to see so many people here tonight at the Desert Park experiencing the magic of Parrtjima and immersing yourselves in our shared culture. Home to the amazing signature light installations and the Rangers Light and Sound Spectacular, the Desert Park Parrtjima site is open every evening from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The theme for Parrtjima 2023 is Listening with Heart. Inspired by the artwork surrounding the statement from the heart, Listening with Heart embodies the concepts of coming together, meeting, and taking the time to contemplate and reflect in the beautiful red centre. There is a growing realisation across the nation that Australia has something incredibly unique, the world's oldest living, adapting culture. And Parrtjima is an invitation from our first peoples asking us to all walk together and build a better future. The festival's themes resonate throughout the 2023 program of live music, talks, films, entertainment and workshops. Every night we will explore what Listening with Heart represents to some of Australia's leading Aboriginal artists, musicians, writers and personalities. Thank you for joining us tonight at what has become an annual collective of voices from around the nation. Our Parrtjima curator, Rhoda Roberts, tonight will speak with Charlie Maher, and please join me in welcoming them tonight. Thank you.
Big thank you, Anya Pa. Local resident of Alice Springs. There's so much hope in this town. I'm really excited to talk with Charlie tonight. I read his story and it's just extraordinary what a young man who grew up here and went out to the world. So Charlie, welcome. You're a Western Arrernte man. Do you want to just tell us about that country?
Yeah, well, I was actually born here in the Alice Springs Hospital, so this talk's pretty special. I do talks around the nation and even around the world when I do the marathons, but this is a special one for me because I'm on country and I feel the presence of my ancestors and it's very strong. So I'm very privileged and very happy to be here tonight.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. As I say, your story is such an extraordinary story of strength, of sadness, of inspiration, and literally trusting a stranger. So I want to go back. Does everyone know what Charlie did? Oh my God. So, there's marathons around the world. There's Tokyo, New York, Chicago, Boston, London, and Berlin. So this young gentleman here over the last 12 years has gone to every marathon, run every marathon, and made history in this nation to be the first one to do all six. Extraordinary. God, I couldn't even run one, but can we go back to you're a young man facing a lot of demons and a stranger approaches you and gives you this idea?
Yeah, well, like you said, it all started here in Alice Springs. I grew up here and I lived in a housing commission house a crowded house with my mum and my siblings and my dad. And in my culture, you can't say no to family, so we had family stay. We'd have up to 10 people stay in our house, and we thought that was normal. So all my family's from Indari, so in Western Arrernte man, so they'd all come in and stay, and you know, my mum is my role model and someone who I admire and still do. She'd just have a no say no policy, and everyone would stay, and we just thought it was the best thing. Like growing up as a young kid here, you know, we didn't have much growing up, so you know, we had to wait till Thursdays. That's when pension for mum. So I got to WAG school and go up to town and have a breakfast and maybe go to Kmart and get a small toy. And I thought that was the best thing ever, like getting a small toy for $2. You know, like I had to share things, share bikes with my siblings, and obviously toys. And I didn't have things of my own. So, but the best thing my mum did say, our faith was number one before family. So we had strong faith and family, and you know, and that was our most important things for her to instill that into us at a very young age. It didn't matter what we had growing up, as long as we were loved and we loved one another, and we'd always say we love each other, and Mum would say, make sure you say I love you, and we'd say I love you back, and that was the best thing ever. Like, we didn't worry about what we had, you know. It was just having that love in your life. That's all you needed, and that's how it's always been. And education was pretty important to my mum, so I couldn't wag school at all. So I'd whinge and complain and make excuses, but she said, no, you got to go to school, son, you're not making excuses. So she was pretty firm, my mum, but it all came from a really good place, and she knew what she was doing. She had a plan, like all mothers do. And yeah, fast forward, here I am now today, and I'm very grateful and blessed to do what I do, and I keep my mum's legacy alive, and yeah, I'm very happy to do what I do, and I'll continue to do it for a long time.
Well, she really pushed you, but also she came from quite an extraordinary family as well. Bit of a dynasty.
Yeah, most definitely. So she was quite smart, my mum. So she grew up out at Hammondsburg, out at Rutna, 8 Mile, with our family out there, and obviously the Germans settled there as well. So we had a good relationship with the Germans and the Lutheran Church, and that. But my mum was pretty smart, and she had to come into Alice Springs to go to school here, and then she went to boarding school in Concordia College. So that's how smart she was. Like, she was very gifted, and she went away for schooling. But then her parents got sick. Her father had diabetes, and he lost his leg, and so during her schooling she had to cut it short. So, as I spoke about before, family's pretty important to us, and she had to sacrifice, you know, finishing school year 12 and come back to Alice Springs to look after her father. And I think it was, yeah, well, I can't remember what year it was, but that's the sacrifices that mothers make, or children make for their parents, and that's what she did. She looked after her father, and he sadly passed away in 92, and then a couple of years later her mother passed away as well. So just like that, you know, both of her parents passed away in a space of 3 to 4 years, and so obviously health and well-being, and you know, has been pretty important to my mum and myself. She never drank alcohol at all, so yeah, she's a pretty strong person that helped me get to the position I am today, and that's why I'm so very grateful.
And a young stranger, well, he's probably a bit older then, which we all know, Rob de Castella, came to Alice Springs and actually spoke to you and your mum. What was it? What did he ask you? Can you remember that very first meeting?
Well, he didn't actually speak to mum. He actually came back twice. So the first time he came, that they did a tryouts in 2010, and the three young men that were chosen, they all did the tryouts here in Alice Springs. It was early 2010 at Anzac Oval. So Joanne Darwin from Maningrida, Caleb Hart from Alice Springs, and Joseph Darwin from Kununurra. All three of them were at the tryouts, and I wasn't there. I was in Brisbane with one of my best mates at a concert, Fleetwood Mac, because I love Fleetwood Mac. So I chose to do that. And Rob would say, if you stay, we'll reimburse you. We'll reimburse your flights, your ticket, and everything. And I just said, nah, I don't want a bar of it. I just didn't think it was a reality, like I thought Alice Springs I'd be here forever, and I drank a lot and, went to the concert with my mate, and the three others, they were in, they were chosen. So they needed one more, and it was hard for Rob to try and get me, really hard, because I just didn't think it was reality. Like, who comes to Alice Springs to promise you go to the biggest marathon in the world, New York City, with millions of people that live there, and I think 45,000 people running the marathon alone, and that's twice the population of Alice Springs. So I had a lot of people let me down in life, and I'll promise you this, if you do this, we'll look after you, and then it just all falls through. So my confidence and self-esteem was already low, so I just didn't want to bother with him, and I just thought, I won't even bother, I won't even worry about who he is. I didn't know who he was and what did he want, why he wanted to do this. But he came back again 2 weeks later to Alice Springs, and obviously still had the three young men. They were chosen. They were training already, getting prepared for this marathon, 6 months of training, and yeah, he came to my school again, and he talked to me again, and something told me after that second chat with him, because the first time I didn't tell my mum at all. I didn't want to bother her about this man. I didn't want to waste her time about Rob de Castella. The first time I didn't even mention it at all. And then just something told me to tell her, so I told her that after his visit, I said, Mum, this man named Rob de Castella, he wants to, he's got this silly idea to take me to New York with these three young men and train for a marathon. And she sat me down and said, son, I watched Rob de Castella. I watched him run thousands of other Australians. I think it was 1982 when he won Brisbane Commonwealth Gold, when the Tanzanians were chasing him and he overtook them. That's the race that Mum watched with other Australians. She looked up to him, and Mum was a runner too, so she did athletics and she loved running. So the rest was history. Once Mum said, because I didn't trust anyone, the only two people I trusted in life was my mum and my older sister. She was 8 years older than me. So if I wasn't with Mum, I was with my big sister. I didn't trust anyone else. I just didn't. So I have a real special spot for women in my life, and I still do to this day. So yeah, that's where it all started with. Yeah, Mum saying trust this man, and I haven't looked back. I rarely look back on what I've done, and it's always forward and just pushing forward, and I'm very grateful. And he's my best mate now. I ring him, I talk to him every week, and it's not about running, it's about family. How's your family? How's your wife? How's your daughter? How's your grandchildren? That's what we speak about now. It's not about running or training or anything like that. So you make best friends for life, and he's one of my best mates.
And he had this idea that he was looking, like you mentioned, the guys he was racing against, and he was looking to see if blackfellas could run like that. And it takes a lot of discipline. And you mentioned that, you had a few demons, having a few drinks, bit of an addiction. What made you go, okay, I'm going to stop that and get into this disciplined training?
Yeah, it was quite difficult because I was one of the leaders of the four. I was the oldest, and I kind of held in what I was going through. I didn't want to share it with anyone. They made a documentary out of it, and it just comes across as that I've got everything together, and I'm pretty strong, and I'll just do the training and get it done. But without the cameras or anything like that, I was still drinking alcohol. So I'd still do the work, because I had an obligation. So my mum said, you know, you have to do this. You've got an opportunity. But I couldn't, you know, get rid of my demons and drinking all the time. I'd drink from Thursday to Sunday with my mates, and it was quite difficult for myself to separate myself with alcohol in that culture. So it was only down the track. I was pretty lucky at that time because I met, you know, I've always had my mum and my big sisters and my brother, and I met Rob de Castella that year, and then I met my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. So I've had all these people in my life that there was a reason why they were in my life at that time, and I had to choose a path, and I had the support of them, and I slowly had to make sacrifices and, you know, turn my phone off and train on weekends. But yeah, drinking's been a pretty big demon in my life to this day. It's still a struggle, but yeah, back then it was pretty challenging, and but I'd always make sure I'd continue to do the work. Like, I'd train and be hungover and still get out and do 5K or something. And
where
I was
would
just
you
pretty
run
disciplined.
in Alice?
Oh, just here in Alice, like I'd run
Whereabouts?
Yeah, I used to live
Up that hill?
Yeah, Larapinta here, down here, and just run into town. I'd do long runs up here to Telegraph Station and around. You know, my long runs would be 30 Ks or 25 Ks, but I had a pretty strong purpose on why I was doing it, and that all stems back from country, like, you know, back at 8 Mile in Humiprid, where we grew up. Like, you know, that's a pretty special place for me and my family, and my culture and that kind of thing. So that was my purpose for doing things and not making excuses. I don't like making excuses. I try my best not to, but I don't. Yeah, I just like to work hard and do the work, because obviously what I'm going through, like running a marathon, it's quite difficult. So I learned pretty early on, you've got to do the work or you're going to be in all sorts of trouble.
So was New York your first one?
Yep, New York 2010. So we had to do 6 months of training. So yeah, that was a pretty special one, because the four of us, I always acknowledge our team. It's all about team. It's not about an individual. So I had a purpose to, as I said, the leader of the four, and just make sure we get it done. We had a lot of people doubting us, that we couldn't do it, and we had to do it, and we had to just think of the positives and try and block out the social media and just do the work. I've always let my actions do the talking. I don't like social media that much. I'm not on it very often. I just let my actions do the talking, and that's all I've ever done. And that's what I focused on. I didn't want anyone to bring me down, so the way I prove people wrong is to train hard, work hard. Like, I'll prove people wrong by running 30 Ks a morning to do the work, because I want to go to New York not for a holiday. I'm going to, you know, go through some pain and block out my demons and push through the pain and, you know, finish strong, and I hope I've done that as well.
Not only have you done it, so the New York Marathon is 42 kilometres, 0.1 or something, to run. But in fact, you ran a New York Marathon and actually did 47 kilometres.
Is that in the training, or?
No, that was it.
Oh, yeah, yes.
You did the marathon and then you ran.
Yeah, kept going.
Why?
I didn't understand why Rob said once you do a marathon as a start of your journey. I said, New York, it's done. I'm going back to Alice Springs and that's it. I'm not running a marathon again. Like, I just thought I'd make an impact here in Central Australia and my Western Arrernte family, and I was very proud that I'd do that, but that wasn't the case at all. We had a lot of people following us, and nationwide it got traction, and I suppose I thought, well, you know, I'm doing something that no one has ever done, and before I'll just keep running and I'll just keep blocking out my demon, which is alcohol. If I keep running, I'll keep blocking it out, and I just always needed a goal in front of me. Like, you know, the next year I did Boston, 2011, I got the opportunity to travel with Rob, just him and I, over to Boston, and I saw the impact that he had on everyone there and how much they loved him, because he won Boston in 1986, and yeah, they really looked after him then. And I just thought, wow, what opportunities I have. I'll just try and grab them when they come and work hard. And that's what I did the last 12 years, just kept running and kept going away overseas and opportunities. I just grabbed every opportunity. Like I said, I didn't want to make excuses or anything like that.
So when you ran Boston, was it before or after the bombing?
So that was 2 years before the bombing. So yeah, we had one of our runners, Emma Cameron, there with Rob at the time. So she was first time overseas. Yeah, she didn't get to complete it, but she then went to Melbourne and ran her marathon, which was great. So yeah.
Does that ever worry you? I mean, we were all so shocked to see that news that in a marathon a bomb could go off. When you were running other marathons, did anything ever go through your head about the danger that could be lurking?
No, well, my mum got really worried, as mums do.
I don't blame her.
Every time I went overseas, she'd pray and make sure I got home safely, and that's what mothers do. We know that, but I'd always come back safely, and she'd always talk about me around town. Oh, that's my son, and she'd be really proud, that's all I ever wanted to do. So I never got worried at all. Like I just thought, marathons bring people together. Anyone can run a marathon. It's not about time; it's about finishing. And what I love about it, all walks of life can do it, men, women. And it's about finishing. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like, I think that's the best thing about it. Like, and the sense of accomplishment to anyone when they cross that finish line. It's I love shaking people's hand like strangers straight after. I'm still in pain in that, but just to shake their hands and say well done. That's the best thing. About finishing, and because we endure something really hard and difficult together, and we get through it, and we have smiles on our face up. So pain's temporarily. So for whatever hours you're doing, or 4 or 5 hours, it's temporary. Then it just goes away.
4 or 5 hours, okay. Charlie is such a delight. I can just imagine your mum and how she would be feeling. She'd be so extremely proud that you got through all this. And it's almost like she would have seen it when you were young, I reckon. But it's like that, you drop that stone in the river, yeah, and all the ripple effect occurs. And Charlie's actually done that because there was this marathon program, Indigenous marathon program, and they look at him now like he's the godfather of the program. But we're going to move from Alice Springs because every community, of course, across the country wants to claim when brothers do really well, everybody wants to claim them. So on the East Coast, and thank God you were still in love, so he moves to the East Coast, to the Biripi country of Port Macquarie, and of course everyone's like, oh yeah, Charlie Maher, yeah, he's local, trying to claim him. What was it like, that big move to Port Macquarie?
Well, it started in 2014, so I got this opportunity to move to Dubbo. I didn't know where Dubbo was with work, and my ultimate dream was to buy a house of my own with my wife near the ocean. It was just a dream. Like, you have these dreams. Everyone has dreams, and that was my dream. So in saying that, my mum said, you've got to go out and, you can't stay in Alice. You've got more to offer. So as I touched on before about mum had to sacrifice a lot. She couldn't do what she wanted to do. So if I could in some way help her by doing the things that she couldn't do, because she did so much for me, that was my fulfillment, to go on and do more and not make, and get away and meet new people. So 2004, I moved to Dubbo. I didn't know anyone. I went to Clontarf, worked there, and I lived there for 2 years, worked really hard, and then Clontarf went to Port Macquarie, which is right near the ocean. So
did you get that house?
I'll come to that. So yeah, I worked really hard there, and I got an opportunity. And with work, I've always wanted to learn and get better, and ask for feedback, and that's all I ever did. Is because I wanted to get better at what I do, and I got the opportunity to go to Port Macquarie to start a new academy. So, you know, we lived there for the last 6 years, and in 2017, my wife and I bought our first house. It's a 4-bedroom house with a swimming pool, and that's for my kids. I've got my son, who's named after the Boston Marathon. He's 9, and my daughter Frankie, she's 11. So everything that I do, like my mum, is all about my children, and so grateful that my dream became a reality, and I bought my own house. And like I spoke about before, growing up in a crowded house and not having my own toys and my own bicycle, I just wanted to work hard. Like I said, I don't like making excuses, and I just work hard and learn. And if I need to read or write, I'll work hard at it and get better at it. So, and that's why my dream became a reality, is because I worked hard just quietly. But that's something I'm very proud of more than anything, is buying my own house for my kids. Yeah.
And, that is such a generational shift, because I don't think a lot of Australians realise it's pretty rare for a black fella to own their own house. And we're starting to see it now with this particular generation of owning a house, having a mortgage. And it's really that self-empowerment and that valuing that we too can have that. But there's value, and I look at you and your value, and I keep looking at these medals. Can you place those medals in order of which marathons you ran? So New York was first?
Yeah, this one, 2010, it's pretty rusted. I don't like washing it or anything, because I just like it as it is, and I like to show people and people hold it, and I don't like putting it in cabinet or glass or anything, because I want people to feel it and touch it. And I don't have my names on the back of any of my medals, because it's not my medal. I've run for everyone, and that's why I don't have my name on it, because it's not mine. It's the purpose I have is to make an impact on people, and a positive impact, and inspire others, and I share my journey with everyone. It's obviously I'm the one that's got to run that far, and endure the pain and ups and downs, but I have people around me that's a part of it, and that's what I love, having the support of people around me, because they're a part of what I do, and I'm so grateful and thankful that I have so many people that are a part of my journey and that help me and get to where I am. And my wife and family are here now, just arrived, so and my extended family, so, and it's all about my family and my friends and people that I don't even know. That's what I love about what I do, is I touch people that I don't know's lives, and I'm so grateful I can do that as well. And yeah, so that's New York.
I'll put that on my arm.
And obviously
New York,
the Boston Marathon, which my son's named after, Boston. That was.
How you going, Boston? What about me?
In 2015, and my daughter Frankie. 2015, I ran Tokyo Marathon, so that one was pretty challenging, that marathon, because I ran sub 3 hours. So I did 20 Ks a week and twice a day of running. Rob said I could do it, and so he set me a training program. Like I said, I'm pretty disciplined, and I don't make excuses, so I just stuck to the training, and that was my best run out of the 7 marathons I've run. All other 6 I've hit a wall, and my body shut down. So, but Tokyo,
Wow.
What happened was, because when you run a good marathon, you run past people and they've hit a wall, and I kind of just kept running and kept running strong, and in all the 6 I was the one that coming back, and others running past me. So I trained pretty hard, and like my wife kept me on track with that one, because with my eating and discipline and that kind of thing as well. So, and that's when I was in Dubbo living as well. So, yeah, that's pretty special to be able to break 3 hours. I think there's only a small percentage of people around the world can break 3 hours. So I'm pretty lucky to be able to do that, and grateful that I'm able to run. And
that's
do the
running.
work.
I'm looking at the map on the back of it. Really big hill coming up in the first moment. My God, the route looks incredibly hard. My gosh.
Yeah, so after Tokyo, I went to Berlin. Berlin was pretty special because this is the first time I went overseas by myself. So I didn't have any of my friends coming over, and Rob had a prior commitment. So he just said, "Oh, this will be good for you, Charlie. You can go on your own. You can meet people, and people mightn't speak English, and you'll have to learn how to, talk to people." And I'm very, I struggle with anxiety, and I'm very shy person. So it really got me out of my comfort zone to, catch planes and trains and talk to people in taxis. And so that was an experience within itself, going to Berlin by myself.
And really good colours.
Yeah. And then Chicago was next, 2018. So I went over there with my two best mates, Bianca Graham. She's run 5 major marathons, so I'm hoping she'll run 6 next year and in London. And my other best mate, Adrian Dodson Shaw. So I was lucky enough to go over there with my 2 best mates. And then obviously the last one. So the last one's pretty special, London, because what happened was my mum got to see me run all 5 marathons, and sadly she passed away in 2001. She had a major stroke, and she couldn't get to see me run the London Marathon. And what's even more difficult is my older sister died of cancer last year, and it was very quick, her cancer. So I had the 2 most precious people in my life that I trusted. So I trusted my mum, and if I wasn't with my mum, I would be with my big sister. So I found out pretty quickly that life's pretty precious, and I lost the most precious people in my life, and in a space of under 2 years. But again, I didn't want to make any excuses, and it's not about me. It's not about, oh, poor Charlie, it's about the impact that I make on other people, and that's what they told me. Like, it's something positive for you, son, or big little brother, that you've got to do this for everyone else, and you've got to push through the pain. You've got to, it's a part of the healing process. So yeah, I only trained for 9 weeks for London because my sister passed away in May last year. But yeah, I made sure I did the work, what was required, and that was probably my toughest run. I think I ran it in 4 hours or something like that. But again, it was very challenging, but I was out there for a purpose, and I dedicated the run to my mum and big sister, and I just felt all the weight off my shoulders when I was coming 500 metres before the London finish line, and I looked up in the sky, and I knew they were there and they were proud of me, and I knew they were in a better place. And yeah, obviously our faith's number one, and they're with Ingarisu, that means Jesus Christ. So they're up there with him looking down at me and very proud. So yeah, that was pretty special getting the London one, and then you also got the last 6 major ones. So that's what I got when I finished as well. So it's all six in one. And a lot of these things that I've achieved sits really uncomfortable with me. I don't like being in the limelight. I don't like being in the centre of attention. I just like to do things very quietly, and like I said, do my actions rather than speaking. But sometimes you have to speak and share your story, and I'm always happy to do that and make time for people, because yeah, I believe I've been given a gift, and I'll continue to do what I do for as long as I live, and make an impact on people in a positive way.
Extraordinary, huh? The first Aboriginal man to ever do this. It's so historical. And that name, Charlie Maher, will be remembered by many. But in fact, I mentioned, you know, the IMP and all the things that Charlie does. It is having an effect in eastern sides of the country. There are so many young people from across Western New South Wales, like Chloe Whitten and all those mob that are now being inspired by you and running marathons, being healthy, making an impact. Because when you run marathons, you can do anything. But when you run marathons, you can actually use that profiling for benefits to the community. And I mean, you give so much back to the community through what you've done and achieved. Just little things that no one realises. And we're almost out of time, but I really know that some of you would have questions. If it's all right, Charlie, can we open up the floor?
Yeah, most
So
definitely.
Anyapa's there with the mic. Just pop your hand up if you've got a question to ask. And I just want to say thank you for getting so personal. Like, you know, losing your sister and your mum takes a huge, it's a huge loss. But you carry them with you every day. And that shows.
Yeah, most definitely. It's I've always learnt to always speak from the heart and talk about your challenges, because you might inspire others to go through the same thing as what I'm doing. And that's important to me, to always speak from the heart and talk about your struggles, and even part of the healing process and loss. And but you know, like I said, life's very precious. So you live life to the fullest, and you care about everyone, you love everyone that you cross paths with, and you make sure you tell people you love them. That's pretty important.
I can see the film, the feature film. Could you just stand up? I was looking for you earlier. This is Liz. Give her a clap.
That's lovely to, stand up and get a clap. Thank you. Hey, g'day. My name's Liz. I'm leading the Trek to Reconnect. It's 6,000 kilometres from the east coast of Australia to the west coast of Australia. I'm not running.
That's okay.
Thank you. I'm not. Take my hat off to you. I'm not sure I could do that. I am walking country, and I'm trying to do my best to connect with the youth of Australia, to send messages of hope and understanding around what's happening on our planet and the fact that they can make a positive change. But what I'm hearing from you is that there's a lot of purpose behind what you do, and I wonder, how did you feel about sharing that purpose? Is that something that has come naturally to you, or do you still grapple with where does this motivation come from?
Like I spoke before, I'm very shy and reserved, and I didn't like talking in public, and I just didn't like sharing what I was going through. But I suppose over time you realise that you're in the public eye all the time. Like I'm in the public eye 24/7. Everyone looks at me, and so I've got a huge responsibility to do the right thing, everywhere, every day, because everyone looks at me, young people, elderly people, like all people from all walks of life. So what I've learnt over time is to speak from your heart, and don't be ashamed, because when I speak from the heart, I'm helping someone else. So I'm always about helping and giving, and if I can share my story of, my struggles and my demons and the adversity that I've overcome, it's going to help someone else. And if I can help that person, then maybe that person can help someone else. So it's a ripple effect. So, and it hasn't come comfortably, but I believe that's my strong purpose and why I do what I do, and I'll continue to do that as long as I can.
Yep, we've got time for one more question if anyone's got anything they would like to ask the amazing Charlie Maher. Yeah, honestly, I can see the feature film, Little Kid in Alice Springs. It's like the Rocky effect.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been so inspiring. I just wanted to know if you could go back to when you were young, what would you tell yourself, or what would you tell any young person?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't change a thing, because yeah, it's helped me get to where I am today. The struggles that I went through and overcome, and the love and support that I had from my family, my mum, especially. So yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. But I suppose I'd say, you know, education is probably number one, the most important thing. Um, yeah, if you can learn and get better at. I couldn't read and write at school, but my mum made me go to school, so I learned how to read and write, and I got better at it. So education's probably right up there, and family as well, and obviously having strong faith, and that's been pretty important to me now. Having faith and getting well looked after, I believe as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And a big thank you to all of you coming. Yes, put your hands together for Charlie Maher. And Parrtjima continues with talks every night over the next, 8 days now. We look at our sports people and we are so proud, but we have so many young people working across the sort of STEM platform. And so tomorrow night we have a young scientist called Corey Tutt, who makes science a bit sexy for our young people. The following day we have talks looking at the Alice Springs Aboriginal businesswomen and people who grew up on country. And then Wednesday we're going to looking at how Aboriginal people deal in disasters with resilience, from the flooding of the East Coast right across the country. So lots of talks coming up. Tonight, Richard Franklin's playing at the Gathering Ground, which is our music stage, and the light show goes for every 15 minutes. It repeats itself. Again, thank you so much for being such a supportive audience and listening with heart. And Anya Part, take it away. And big thank you to Charlie.
And thank you, Rhoda. And thank you, Charlie, for sharing your very inspiring story. And Parrtjima would also like to acknowledge the NT government for their support. And thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you.